In this video, I'll take a quick look at how to cut with a longsword. I'll start with the basics, such as the stance and how to grip a longsword, and then I'll show two exercises. One for a completely vertical cut, and one for a diagonal descending cut. If you find this video interesting, I have a full series on how to cut with a longsword. It has much more exercises. It goes way deeper into the theory side of cutting, and more importantly, it explains you how to figure out what you are doing wrong if you have difficulties with any of the exercises. The link is in the description. Without further ado, let's get into business. To even begin, you need a neutral standing posture, or you don't really have anything to build on. We want to have as solid contact with the ground as possible. To do this, you want to keep your heels on the ground. A wider and lower stance aids with stability and power generation. With bent knees, you are also more efficiently able to recruit your legs for power generation when cutting. To begin constructing your stance, you should make it as wide as it's deep. I recommend starting with 1.5 times shoulder width. I have yet to see anyone with too wide of a stance to begin with. Use this as a starting point and then adjust the stance so that it feels natural. I would again advise you to go a bit wider and deeper than it feels completely comfortable. You also want to distribute your weight evenly on both legs. The toes of your front foot should point directly forwards. Instead of pointing directly forwards or to the side, the toes of your rear foot should be somewhere in between. When cutting, you should stand so that at the end point of the cut, your hips are open and your hips and shoulders point to the same direction. This mimics the end position of a cut with a passing step. Then extension. Extension simply means having our arms straight to achieve maximum reach. You want to extend your elbow so that it is almost straight, but not at the limit of its range of motion. The final thing before actually picking up a sword is centering. Centering simply means having our hands in front of the center of our body. An easy way to demonstrate this is to straighten your arms in front of you and place your palms against each other. Now move your arms up and down without bending your elbows. This is your center line. When cutting, you should always have your hands on the center line, or in other words centered, when hitting the target. Now we get to move to the interesting part, actually holding our sword. What we want to have is what I call a handshake grip. With a handshake grip, you want to maximize the angle between your forearm and the short edge of the sword. To achieve this, hold open your hand with your fingers spread out. Now, place the grip of the sword across your palm in the following manner. The front side of the grip should be over the first joint of the index finger with the grip resting on the base of the index finger. The back side of the grip should be close to the middle of your palm. The grip should lay over the meaty part of your palm near the wrist at the pinky side of your palm. It should look something like this. When you close your hand, the meaty base of your thumb should support the grip from the back. You want to have a slight extension of the wrist to bring the forearms in line with the sword. From the side, you can see that the thumb should lightly touch your index finger and your finger joints at the front of the grip should be staggered. The base of your thumb should be in line with your wrist. You want to have both your dominant and non-dominant hand holding the sword in the same way. Place your dominant hand close to the crossguard so that your index finger doesn't touch the cross. Placing your non-dominant hand is simple. Just place it behind your dominant hand so that your hands touch. When your hands are back to back and you have the proper extension of the wrist, it is basically impossible for the pommel to come up between your arms. Then, let's see how to grip a sword. Generally, your grip should be as tight as possible without negatively affecting your cutting. Gripping as hard as you can is often called a white knuckle grip or a death grip. You don't want to do this. When gripping, you should mostly aim to use the bottom three fingers, those namely being the pinky, the ring and the middle finger. If you try to grip too hard with your index finger and to some extent with your middle finger, it tends to rotate the sword to closer to a 90-degree grip instead of a handshake grip. This is simply because we want to have the grip of the sword resting on our index finger. In this video, the exercises require you to listen to the sword wind. Shortly, the sword wind is the sound the sword makes when it travels through air. To make this sound, the sword must be traveling fast enough and the edge must be aligned properly. The louder the sound and the higher the pitch, the better. You also want that the sword wind starts as soon in the cut as possible and lasts as long as possible. The first exercise is a simple way to test your stance, structure and grip. Remember to warm up properly before trying any of the exercises. Let's start with your starting position. As we have already gone through how to form a proper stance and how to hold a sword, I'll just give short reminders on those. Have your dominant foot forward. Remember to have a good wide stance with your knees bent. Front foot's toes pointing forwards, back foot's angled to the side so that the stance feels comfortable. Have your weight evenly distributed on both legs. Hold your sword in a proper handshake grip straight in front of you at shoulder height. You want to have your both arms properly extended. Now, just by rotating your shoulders, bring the sword over your head. You should do this so that the center of mass is roughly above your head. This makes holding the sword easier. Loosen your grip so that you don't tire your hands. You are now standing in the starting position of the following exercises. Let's get to the exercise itself. Stand in the starting position. Tighten your grip. Now slowly lower the sword down in a completely vertical line. The rotation must be around your shoulders. Continue until you cannot bring your arms lower without bending your elbows. Untighten your grip. Return to the starting position. Repeat. Do not worry about the sword wind with this progression. After you can keep the cut straight, move to the next progression. Once again, stand in the starting position and tighten your grip. Now just bring your hands forward enough that the sword can cut down in a vertical line on its own. Don't speed the cut up or try to slow it down. Let gravity do its job. The cut should come to a stop when your arms come in contact with your chest. This way, your structure stops the cut and you don't have to try to slow the cut down with your muscles. With this exercise, you might start to hear the sword wind. It depends on the sword you are using. After you can keep the cut straight and you don't slow the cut down using your muscles, move to the next progression. Once again, stand in the start position and tighten your grip. This time you want to actually power the cut using your lats to bring the sword down. Again, do not use your muscles to slow the cut down. You must let your structure do the work for you. Start slow and incrementally keep adding more power to the cut as long as you can maintain your structure. If your structure starts to break down, reduce the power of the cut until your structure holds. Then, once again slowly increase the power until the structure almost starts to break. With this progression, you should be able to hear the sword wind. If you do not, the most likely issue is that your edge is not aligned. This means that the edge is not pointing to the direction the sword is moving in. Then let's move to the diagonal cut. With this exercise, do not cut towards your front leg. This means that when we are cutting from the dominant side, we want to have our dominant leg forwards. This is a safety precaution with descending cuts. If you cut towards your front leg, there's a slight chance that you actually hit it. This might happen if your structure or grip are not good enough. Now to the exercise itself. Stand in the starting position. Rotate your hips so that your chest points roughly 45 degrees to your dominant side. If you can't rotate your hips far enough, angling the toes of your back foot to point more forwards or having a wider stance might help. You can also continue the rotation from your core. However, you should first rotate from your hips and only after that continue rotating your shoulder line. Keep your face towards your target in front of you. Rotate your wrists to bring your sword to a 45-degree angle. Tighten your grip. Bring your arms forward until they are correctly centered and extended. Power the rotation from your legs while bringing your arms down in a 45-degree angle. Let your structure stop your cut. Loosen your grip. Return to the starting position. Repeat. You should start this exercise at a relaxed speed and making sure you don't artificially slow down the cut. As you learn to sync your rotations to produce a 45-degree cut and keep your structure, start gradually adding more and more speed. With this exercise, you should be able to hear the sword wind. Aim to make it as loud as possible and cover as long part of the cutting arc as possible. If you can't hear the sword wind, it is very likely that your edge is not aligned or you do not have a proper handshake grip. And that is it for this short look at cutting with a longsword. If this got you interested, please go and take a look at my cutting series. Also, remember to like and subscribe. See ya next time.